In today's presentation, we're looking at an animated slide deck in PowerPoint to make data slides great again. The slide deck consists of 5 types of slides representing all different kinds of data. For example, the first one, we look at the bar charts, where we animate bar charts on the screen in a pretty cool way. We also have a way to compare market shares, for example, comparing 3 different percentages in a visually appealing way. Next, we have a comparison slide where we compare, for example, the male versus the female ratio in a research. And we'll also look at, for example, a project completion where you compare 3 different percentages in a different way. And to end with the research results where you want to show or compare data in demographics on the slide in a more dynamic and creative fashion. Now, if you like this style of presentation, I've made a full 50+ slide deck in this exact style. And it's available on my Patreon. I'll link it in the description below. So if you sign up today, you'll get instant access to all of the presentations, which will save you a lot of time in the future. And if you want to follow along, these are the color palettes that I'm using in the presentation. You can pause the video and add them to your slides. Let's start with the first one, which is the opening slide of the presentation. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the Insert tab and click on Icons. And then we're going to choose the Image tab. This is on a Mac. If you're working on a Windows, it will give the option to go for images directly. Here we're going to look for Abstract Architecture and then see what we get. And this gives us quite a nice selection of background images, shapes that we could use in our presentation very subtly. So I'm going to choose one that I like. Let's take this one. You can see that it is completely yellow, and of course we don't want that for the style of our presentation. So we're going to right click Format Background, Format Picture, go to the Image tab, Picture Color, and here we're going to choose black and white. So this already makes it less harsh on the slide. Let's add a shape to the slide and draw a rectangle over the entire screen. Here we can see we use the standard colors of PowerPoint. So if you want to change that, we go to the Design tab. And then in variants, you can choose your own color palette that you have made. I'm going to use this purple color palette of which you have the color codes. So right click Format Shape, and we're going to give this a dark fill. Let's go for a gradient fill, and let's do it from an angle so that we have the dark at the bottom. Let's add one more stop, maybe the extra dark. Shift this around a little bit. Let's remove the one in the middle. And maybe make this just a little bit lighter. There we go. That gives us a nice dark gradient. We can increase the transparency to about 10% for both of these stops. And that will give a little bit of that shine through of the picture, which gives a cool effect. Now go to the Insert tab again, and let's add some text to the slide. Go to Text box and draw it on the screen. Here you can type in anything you want. Let's type in Slide Skills as a title name. For the font, we're going to use Avenir Next. We're going to make it just that little off-white. And font size, let's try 90. Center it in the middle. And then go for the sub-font. Let's do bold. Maybe a little bit smaller. That way it's more clean on the slide. Let's add a text box for the subtitle. And let's call it, give it a subtitle, Make Data Slides Great. Again, give it the same color. Avenir Next, but the sub-font centered, and the sub-font we're going to make it ultra light. Font size 18 doesn't look too bad. I think that will do the trick. This is already quite a nice opening slide. Now you can always add some more elements. Let's do a rounded rectangle element completely around the corners, no outline, and make this the off-white, centered in the middle, and put it at the bottom of the slide. And then let's type in, let's go, select the font and make it purple. Of course, we're going to use the same font to be consistent. Avenir Next, ultralight, and then give it that purple font. Maybe a bit smaller. There we go, like a little call to action that you can put at the bottom of your slides. Now this is the first slide. I'm going to animate them all at once at the end because there's a lot of consistencies between the animations. And that brings us to the second part, which is going to be the bar charts in a cool, creative way. So for the second slide, we're going to create a new slide, remove all the content, format background, and this we're going to give it a solid fill, but the darkest tint. I'm going to insert the text box And let's look for a title. We call this first one, we're going to look at bar charts. Make it white. Avenir next. Increase the font size to about 40. Use the off-white. And for the font, let's try demi-bold. That looks quite good. We're also going to add a shape, which we draw here on the slide. And we're going to right-click Format Shape. And we're going to give this a gradient fill. We're going to remove the stops and we're going to make it dark blue on one side and then a pink color on the other side. For the direction we can choose, we can swap them around. I kind of like it that it goes towards the pink and that it subtly fades in from the left. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider. I think 2 points will do. Make it a bit shorter and that way we have a nice title and a line, a style element to split the content from the title. Now to make the bar charts, we're going to add some elements. So drag a line and hold the shift key to create a perfect horizontal line. Right click, format shape. This one we're going to make it a lot thinner, about 0.5, and also increase the transparency to, let's try 50, maybe just a little bit wider, 75. There we go. Hold Control and Shift to create some copies. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Select them all while holding Shift. Align. Distribute vertically, and this way they are evenly spaced on your slides. You can group them together using Ctrl G and then increase or decrease if you want. But I think it looked quite good like this. So I'm going to keep this and then position them on the slide. Next, we're going to add some rectangles. So I'm going to draw a few rectangles, remove the outline, and the first one I'm going to give it this light fill. I'm going to hold Ctrl and Shift to create a copy. And this one I want to give a gradient fill, where we go to the lightest color and then we start from a nice dark tint. You can play around with the angle until you have a result that you like. I kind of like it that is sort of to the side. And then you can increase or decrease the height easily. So let's select those both, make them just a little bit thinner, place them next to each other. And then we hold Control Shift or Option Shift if you're working on a Mac and spread them out. Now we can increase the size so they meet the numbers that we want to represent. It could be anything, could be a year progression, it could be data, any data from any set that you want. And you can fill it all the way to 100%. So depending on the numbers that you have, you could easily modify them like this. You can also insert your own data from an Excel sheet. That is perfectly possible. I'm just going to increase the outlines a little bit and push it up just one notch so that everything nicely aligns at the bottom and we have equal spacing on the right as on the left of the slide. Now I'm going to add some text to the left side. Let's do some dummy text. Lorem ipsum dolor sit. We're going to make this white. Avenir next. And this could be a demi-bold subfont. Increase the size a little bit. And then we're also going to add some dummy text to the slide. So draw a text box underneath and fill it with some dummy text. The font size can be quite small. I think 12 will do for this type of slide. Maybe to give some extra touch to the slide, I'm going to change the font, give it a gradient fill, and then use these same colors as I have used in the chart. So the pink color, and then we change the angle until we like the result. I think the dark is just a little bit too dark, so I'm going to shift this over one bit, and that is easier to read, but still uses the same color palette. Let's reduce this by just a little bit, select them both, drag them a little to the side, and we're going to add a nice arrow on the left of the slide. So an arrow, we're going to remove the outline and give this a same gradient fill so that it nicely matches the presentation. You can always hold the Control key and zoom in to place it nicely in the center. Doesn't have to be too big. This looks quite good. Select everything, hold Control Shift and create a copy, and then position everything nicely on the slide. I'm going to position this just a little bit to the right, give it more breathing room, and the other elements, we could nicely position them here. And maybe the title, we shift it so everything nicely aligns on one line. So that is our second slide, and also this one we're going to animate at the end. This brings us to the third slide, which is going to be a market share, where we look at 3 percentages on a slide. And for the third one, we're going to make a copy, so a duplicate of this slide. We're going to remove the content for now, but just keep the title. And this one, let's call it market share. And for the market share, we're going to start with a circle. Hold the shift key to create a perfect circle. We're going to remove the outline, use that off-white color, format shape, and we're going to increase the transparency to about, let's say, 80%. Go to Insert Shapes and insert this pie chart. So we're going to hold the Shift key and insert the pie chart, place it on top of the image or the circle that we've created. If you want, you can also select both, align to center, align to middle, and this way they are perfectly centered. Now, if you hold the Control and Shift key of the pie chart, you can see that it scales from the middle. So that way you can be sure that everything is nicely aligned. Also for this one, remove outline and then go to a gradient fill. And here we're going to change the colors so that it nicely matches with the rest of the slides. You can choose if you want a radial color fill or radial gradient fill, but I think in this case we're going to stick with the linear one. This looks quite nice with the purple on top and then the darker purple at the bottom. Now we're going to add one more circle to the slide. Hold Shift, center it in the middle as well, remove the outline, use that same fill color, and this one we're going to keep in the center, make it a bit smaller, which is going to contain our percentage sign. So for that we can copy this text box because it already has the right formatting, remove all the rest of the text, and for example, let's say 32%, select everything, make it bold, center it in the middle, and now we're going to position our text box also in the middle. Increase the size, and what I like to do here is I want to reduce that percentage sign by a few ticks. That way it looks more balanced in my opinion. And then play around with the font size until you are happy with the result. Place it in the middle, or somewhere optically at least in the middle. Now we're going to change, of course, the percentage. So 32, that is, let's say around here. And then we're going to copy some text elements from the previous slide and use them as fillers for the text. Let's make this a bit smaller and reduce the amount of text. We don't need that much. Of course, you can put as much or as little text as you want. Center it. And also this one, we're going to center, make it smaller, select both, arrange, align to center. That way they are perfectly positioned. And of course here you can choose, if you don't like this gradient, you can just give it a regular solid fill and make it that off-white. That also looks nice and clean on the slide. That's a personal preference you can choose. Once you're happy with this result, we're going to position it perfectly where we want. Hold Ctrl Shift and select all the elements and drag them to the right. You can Ctrl G to group them together. So if you do that with all 3 items, you have 3 boxes to work with. You can Ctrl G and drag it to create a copy. Select all 3, align and distribute horizontally. This way they are evenly spaced. Group once more, align to center, and this way they are perfectly aligned in the middle of the slide. And then you can ungroup if you want, and maybe ungroup once more to have all loose elements. Now if you want to change, for example, let's say this one has to be 43 and this one, a larger one, 78, you can just adjust the fill like this and it's pretty easy to work with. So it instantly gives you quite a nice look of your slide. I feel that these text boxes are just a bit too close, so I'm going to give it more spacing. Here it was kind of okay, but if you complete the full circle, you want to give it more space, of course. And that completes our third slide. Also, this one we're going to animate at the end. And this brings us to the fourth slide, which is going to be a comparison slide between male and female data. And for the fourth one, we're going to duplicate again, get rid of the content, and now we're going to the insert icons again. Let's look for person, and we're looking for a male and a female icon. Insert them to the slide and make them quite large. Make them just a little bit larger. There we go. And position them nicely on the slide. Maybe a bit closer and then perfectly centered in the middle. We're going to give them both a white fill color, format object, but we're going to make it transparent. Let's do 80 as well. That way we are consistent with the previous slide and that color. So there's a nice consistency in between these slides. Now we're going to fill it up with some dummy content. So let's copy some text elements from the previous slide, copy that on the left, align to left, and also arrange a line to the right to have some information for the one on the left. And let's do the same on the right. But of course we align to the other side here and also align to left. Give them equal spacing and position them. Let's move them just a little bit down. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create a text box. Let's say we want to do 82%. It's just an arbitrary number. I'm going to increase the size to, let's try 65. Make it bold. And the percentage sign we're going to reduce in size. So about 36. On the left side, we can use a different color. So the color for the left side, we're going to make it that pinkish color. And then we're going to copy this to the right, align to the other side. And for the female part, let's use a purple color. So a little bit darker color. And maybe let's do 45%. Now, of course, we want to represent that percentage in the icons. So we're going to copy this shape of the male, position it on top, and give it the purple fill. Of course, without the transparency. So you go to graphic format and reduce the transparency. Oops, and then give that correct color fill again. We're going to do the same for the female already. So copy, reduce the transparency, and already make it purple. And now we can right click, crop the top part of the male version and fill it to around 82%. So let's say that's around here. For the female, we can do the same, crop, and then adjust it to 45, which is a little bit below halfway. Something changed in the transparency here, so I'm going to give that a full transparency to 80 again. And of course, that only goes for the first part. So there we go. That's the result that we want. And also this one, we're going to animate at the end again. Moving on to the next one, which is a project completion. So a nice way to visualize percentages on the slide. We're also going to start from the same starting point, remove content, where we show the completion of a project. And for that, we're going to insert a shape. We're going to remove the fill in this case, and we're going to give it an outline. Right click, format shape, and the outline, we're going to make it 2 points and increase the transparency to 80%. So that same 80% mark. And now we're going to copy, paste the circle, and we're going to place it perfectly on top. We're going to shape format, edit shape, change shape, and we're looking for this arc shape. So the quarter of a completion of the circle. And the reason we do that is now we have the perfect size of a circle which perfectly overlaps and fits with the existing one. If we were to go to shapes individually, go for the arc shape, hold Ctrl and Shift, we could also do it, but then it's kind of hard to match it perfectly with this circle. So I'd rather do it in this way where I just change the shape. So grab the overlaying part and we're going to make it larger. So let's say 15, remove the transparency, and we're going to give it a gradient line fill. So also for this, we want 2 stops. So I'm going to remove the other ones, add the color pink on one side, and then the purple on the other, maybe the darker one. And I think 15 is just a bit too much, so I'm going to reduce it. Let's try 11. That looks a bit better. Now you can see this way you can drag the handles and complete the circle. Now what I like, or what I don't like, is the harsh cutoff. So if we want to round this corner, we're going to select it, scroll down in the menu, and look for cap type. Flat means it is as it is right now, so you have that hard cutoff, but you can also do it rounded. And if you do it rounded, it gives that little bit of a modern touch to it. And I just think it looks a bit nicer. So you can change it this way and then adjust as you like. Now I'm going to copy some elements from the previous slide, so the text and some content, paste it on the slide, center everything nicely in the middle. Same for the text. We can increase this one, increase the box, Let's make this white in this example. And I think this size, and this one looks better. Select everything, position them on the left side, and now fill in the data. So let's do 24, which will be around here. Select everything, group them together, hold Control Shift, drag it to the side, and do that once more so that you have equal spacing. Select all boxes and ungroup again. Again, you could do the same thing for the alignment if you want the exact same alignment, but for this tutorial I think it will look nice. 50% and 82%, and then we just adjust the handles so that they meet the percentage marks. 82 will be around here. So this is a pretty quick and nice slide for a project completion. And that brings us to the next step, which is going to be population data results. For that one, we're going to copy once more, remove the content, and we're going to select the icons again. So go to icons, type in for man, person, doesn't matter, add it to the slide, and make it white, off-white. We're going to make it just a little bit smaller and position it on the left side. What I like to do is I like to reduce the crop marks so I have a finer selection to work with. There we go. So this way the selection is pretty easy. I'm going to copy it 10 times. So hold Control and Shift and copy them a few times. So that's 4, 8, and then I need 2 more, 10. Select them all, arrange, align, and distribute horizontally. This way they're all equally spaced. Now, if you want to make them larger or smaller, you can Ctrl G and group them, make it smaller or make it larger as you wish, and then ungroup them again. Let's copy some of the content boxes that we can reuse for the percentage, align to left, and place it behind the icons. Let's say we have 30% for the first one, and I'm going to copy everything, 1 and 2. Let's say this one is 50% and 70%. And that way you can just select the icons and give them a fill color. In this case, 5. So 50%, we do 10, so it's pretty easy to calculate. Make it a bit darker, and then 70% means 7 out of 10. We do it like this, or you can maybe go for 1 darker. Kind of depends on the screen that you're presenting on. Let's stick to this one for now. If you want, you can also adjust the font or the color of the numbers. That way you can easily see to which one it belongs to. And then grab some dummy text to fill on the slide. This could be maybe some explanation about the research that you've done. And I'm going to make this white so that it's not representative to any specific topic, but it's more like some general information about the research. Let's do one more. That way it's nicely balanced. You can adjust the text as you like. I'm going to keep it with this. So now we have made 5 different slides. So an introduction slide, a bar chart slide, market share or like population comparison. Let's call this comparison slide, project completion, and let's call this research results. So we have 5 nice slides to animate. And now let's move to the last part, which is the animation of the chapter. So we're going to animate all of these slides in one go. Starting with the introduction slide, we're going to open the animation pane, and there's a few elements that we can animate. So I'm going to select the title and subtitle. And for this one, I'm going to use, let's see what we can use, the float in effect. I think that one looks quite slick, quite cool. And the bottom tag, for this one, I think we can use a regular fade. And let's open the animation pane and let's set some timings or some triggers. The title and the subtitle looks quite good. Open the options and timing. I'm going to add a little bit of a delay, very subtle, 0.2 to the subtitle. And the title can start on click, and the call to action button, that can happen after previous and in 1 second. So let's see what that gives. Then going to the second slide, which is going to be the bar charts. And for this one, we're going to add some nice elements as well. First, I want to add a rectangle at the bottom, which is going to cover this bar charts. Give it the same fill as the background, 1 tint darker, so that everything can kind of appear and disappear from behind that bar. The elements or the outline of the charts, we're going to leave it as it is, but the chart itself, so the numbers, we're going to animate those. and we're going to give them a fly in effect. So fly in, and from the bottom, that was already correct. It's quite fast, so I'm going to put it on 1 second. If you want to customize it, you can do 1.5. And then I'm going to group those parts together. So group together, and I'm going to have them fly in as well, but from this side or from the left side. Not at the same time, so I want the first group to fly in. This can happen with previous, and then the second group, this can happen with previous as well, but a delay of 0.2. So that as soon as we click, all of the rectangles fly in, and then also the group happens, or the grouped item, the title, and then the second title flies in with a little delay. Let's see what that looks like. And that is quite a nice effect that we want to generate. Moving on to the market share. And here we want to do a pretty similar trick. So I'm going to copy that rectangle, and then we're going to paste it right here so that you can see it covers everything of the text. And now we want to, of course, bring all of the text elements to the front, so that if we animate those parts, and I'm going to group them together. So each of those I'm going to select and right click group, so that if they appear, they kind of appear from behind the same, or behind that rectangle. It's like a similar effect. For practicalities, I'm also going to group those together, group and group, and now we're going to animate them one by one. So select the first one, hold shift and select the second group, and add a fly in effect. First one can happen on a click. Let's reduce that intensity, so we go to 1 second. I think both 1 second will be fine. And it can happen with previous, but let's give it a little bit of a delay, like 0.3. There we go. And do the same for the others. Fly in, set it to 1, and then the group 0.3 again. Same thing for the last one, fly in effect, set the duration to 1, and then for the group, you can do it 0.3. Everything comes on a click as you like it. So as soon as you click, you get the first option. Click again, you get the second one, and once more to get the third effect. Brings us to the comparison slide, and this one we can animate in a nice way as well. So select all of the 3 elements, and I'm going to use a fly in effect from the left. It can happen all at once. If you want to go a little bit more fancy, you can do 0.2 on the subtitle and 0.4 on the text paragraph. So it shifts in at a different pace, which is quite cool. And for this one, we want to use a wipe effect. So you can scroll down and look for the wipe effect. Here it is. And of course, that can happen together with the previous one. So with previous. We're going to do the same for the female side, fly in effect, but this time from the right side. So everything flies in from the right. Set it to 1 as well. Let's do the same for the others. Set it to 1. And then a delay 0.2, 0.4. You can choose whichever timing that you want. And also the wipe effect here, which then happens with previous. And let's see what that looks like. So also here, if you now click, you get the male side first with everything flying in nicely from the left side. Click again and you get the same thing from the right side. Quite a cool effect, gives a nice slide. Moving on to the 5th one. This one, we can animate it in multiple ways. You can do it in a similar way as this one, or you can do it together. Let's do it like this. So group 3 items, and then we're going to select all 3, hold shift, and do a fly in effect from the bottom. Let's do it 1 second. And then we're going to add a short delay, so 0.5, and then 1 second delay on the last one, so that everything flies in at a different speed. But there's consistency in between the different ones. Let's see what that gives. And as soon as you click, you get the first one, the second one, and the third one. Of course, you can also animate it on the clicks if you want, that depends. That brings us to the last one, the research results. And also for this one, we can do something quite cool. I'm going to group those parts together and add a fly in effect from the right side so that they nicely fly in from the right. Also here, just a 0.5 delay, and set the timing to 1 so that it's not too fast. These 10 elements, together with the number, we're going to use a peek in animation. So let's look for a nice peek in animation. You have float in, but the peek in will look quite good as well. There we have it. And also this one, we can make sure that it comes from the bottom, And that way it gives kind of a cool effect. So this is the first one, happens on a click. Select the second line, peek in, and then the third one, we do peek in as well. Now, if you want to be really fancy, you can also do some time delays. So for example, do a 0.1 delay. I'll do it for 1. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 for the third man, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and then of course the number, which then comes at 1 second delay. So let's preview what we have and what that would look like, which means if you click now, you get the text, click again and you get the numbers, so they kind of wave in, or you do them all at once and they happen like this. So it depends on the style that you want to create. You could use this cool effect. Now, if you like this style of presentation, I've also made full 50 plus slide decks in the same style, which you can download via the link in the description below. If you sign up, you'll also get instant access to all the other presentations available. So a lot of value, which will save you a lot of time when creating presentations. Now, thanks a lot for watching. And if you want to learn more about PowerPoint, please watch the video on the screen right now.